Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from, you know where you are, the Overflow Room. Yes, and today we are talking about, well, we're the letter N, and we're moving backwards, and I took some very interesting composers. First, Jan Novák. Not to be confused with Vítězslav Novák, who we talked about last time. Jan was one of the students of Martinu. He lived from 1921 to 1984. Very interesting guy. We've talked about his music in this channel before, and one of his discs of concerti won a Keep On Listening award because it's just marvelous stuff. He was in some respects a neoclassicist, but he had his own quirks. I mean, one of the things was he loved to set texts in Latin. He was a Latin scholar, Latin literature. And so we have this thing, Dido, which is a cantata after Virgil, and this other thing called Mimus Magicus, which is also after Virgil. And they're all in Latin. He wrote this long Latin preface to the whole thing. I mean, he really knew his Latin. But this is on Audita, and it features Raphael Kubelik and the Bavarian Radio Male Choir and Symphony Orchestra with various soloists. And the music's wonderful. It's terrific stuff. You have to hear it. I can't describe it particularly, but if you've been listening to those concertos and you've enjoyed them, and you think he's a composer worth following, this will also interest you. I guarantee it. Then, after Novák, there's only one thing down here, actually, in the Overflow Room. And the reason is because most recordings of his music have been rather recent, so they're all upstairs with the newer stuff. But there you go. Then we've got 4 discs featuring most of the orchestral music by Mikhail Nosyrev. Now, Nosyrev lived from 1924 to 1981. These are all on Olympia. I don't know if they exist anymore, but you might be able to find it somewhere else. Really a fine composer. He was arrested by the Stalin people and sent to the Gulag for 10 years. Initially, he and his family were all condemned to death, but their sentences were commuted. And then, of course, posthumously, he was rehabilitated. A lot of good that did it by that time, right? But his second symphony was written in memory of Shostakovich. Shostakovich promoted his work. Shostakovich there was such a decent guy. I mean, he just was. And he always went to bat for composers who had been oppressed, as Nosyrev was. Now, you can see from his dates here, 1924 to 1981, as I mentioned, he didn't have a long life. He probably had some health issues after his stay at the Gulag. But he wrote 4 symphonies and 3 concertos and some ballets and symphonic poems, and a lot of that's here. The symphonies are gnarly. Some of them are, anyway. I mean, I was just listening to the third the other day, and it's a tough piece. It really is, but I find them rewarding. If you like the Shostakovich of, say, the 4th Symphony, the more angular Shostakovich, then Nosyrev won't be a problem, and you'll find his angst and darkness really appealing. I mean, I did. It's very gripping. But in this disc, we've got the ballet, The Song of Triumphant Love, based on a story by Turgenev. It's a beautiful work. It really is. It's a decent piece, and it's 79 minutes of ballet music. An enjoyable and fascinating find, really a discovery, I think. So there's that. Then we've got, let's see, his Capriccio for violin and orchestra, his piano concerto, 4 preludes for harp. Oh, I love harp music. And Skazka, his fairy tale symphonic poem from 1947. None of this is amongst his more difficult music, but it's good music, and it's very well crafted and very well scored. These are all performed by people you've never heard of. Who's this one? The Voronezh State Symphony Orchestra under Vladimir Verbitsky. And here we've got Mikhail Gontvarg, violin, Igor Uriash, piano, Irina Donskaya, harp, and the Mussorgsky Opera and Ballet Theater Orchestra of St. Petersburg under Andrei Anikhanov. Okay, is that complicated enough? Symphonies 1 and 2. Here we go. We got the symphonies 1, 2, 3, 4. with the St. Petersburg Academic Symphony Orchestra under Verbitsky, once again. Let me see, what does this say here? Because of the tragic circumstances surrounding Nosyrev's all too brief composing career, his music has very rarely been heard. With this CD, we are able to complete the set of Nosyrev's 4 symphonies. Again, his music is powerful and expressive and serves as a stark reminder of the terrible experiences endured by many Soviet citizens during the Stalin era. And yes, it does do that. There's no question about that. And here we've got Symphonies 3 and 4, the third, as I mentioned, that I just listened to. And boy, was it a gripping saga. It's really Soviet powerful, not compromising stuff. Really very good. And this is also Verbitsky, the same forces as previously. So there we have Nosyrev. And then finally, in the letter N, well, boy, is this a change of pace, we have Norway. Just plain Norway. I have a Norway section because there are lots of little discs that have Norwegian classical favorites, Norwegian rhapsodies and things like that. So I keep them under Norway. It's easy. So we've got Norwegian classical favorites, number 1, which is number 1 and number 2 on Naxos. And you get, bits of things that are familiar by like Grieg and things that are less familiar by like Agatha Bakker-Grøndahl and Johannes Halvorsen and Johannes Hansen and Johan Halvorsen and Ole Olsen and Richard Nordrock and Sigmund Islandsmoen. Yes, Islandsmoen and Arne Eggen and Svensson, and it's just all kinds of fun stuff. Lovely discs. And here you've got some Harold Severud. It's not all easy stuff or just anodyne. It's Gert Veit and Ivan Groven, who's a wonderful composer. Sort of the Norwegian Vaughan Williams, sort of like that. Edvard Fiflet Brain and Gunnar Gjerstrom and Øystein Sommerfelt and Ludvig Jørgens Jensen is a wonderful composer as well. And let's see, Farten Valen, who wrote, atonal Norwegian stuff. His Churchyard by the Sea, which is a little atonal tone poem that sounds very grim, actually. It's a churchyard. It's a cemetery, and it's by the sea. This is fun. Fun. Norwegian stuff. And then we also have Norwegian Rhapsodies, which has some of the same stuff with the Stavanger Symphony Orchestra under Eivind Adland. This is the Iceland Symphony under Bjarte Engeset. Yeah, these are Naxos. This is Biss. And yeah, it's like the same folks. Who am I kidding? The same folks, except they don't bother to translate the titles of these things. So I have no idea what they are. We've got like Fjellstad and Herskep Skridblop and Murgen Splippe and Nurskipstek and Valdres Marcy and Veren and Bjarjes Inge Storstemarsten. Yeah. Great. Absolutely great. Pardon me if my Norwegian is not up to snuff. It never will be. So there you have it, my friends. 3 rather intriguing and interesting things. 2 composers you might not know, and some Norwegian stuff containing plenty of composers you may not know. That's why I hang on to them, because they're really, really cool. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.